Yo, 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 what's going on, people? It's your boy Kaz here once again for Say Less. Thank you so much for subscribing on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Podbean, wherever you get, and YouTube, wherever you get your podcast from. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you missed any of past episodes with Boss, Spencer Pazinger of All American, Isaiah Swerve Scott, Rosalind Gold on Woody, Van Lathan, B. Peter Rosenberg. You can get all of those on the iTunes page, Spotify, and I'm launching a website very, very soon where you can get every single thing related to Say Less on one place. This episode features a very longtime friend of mine. She is one of the most famous, I want to call them video vixens, models, but she's so much more than that. She is an absolute pioneer in the game. She hosts Hollywood Unlocked and also hosts a podcast called I'm Here for the Food. And she's just one of the most brilliant minds you can ever speak to. It's Melyssa Ford. She's an absolute legend in the game. This conversation's great, man. We talk about everything going on in the world right now. Tips on how to stay safe. She's a forensic psychologist as well. So, I mean, like, you know, when you talk about not judging the book by its cover, and a lot of people tend to do that with her, it's really funny because she will make you feel and sound very stupid very quickly. But she's absolutely one of my favorite people on earth. So, yeah, Emilio, you know what time it is. Hit the fucking music.
Why can't I get an intro like when I walk into every room like that? That was awesome.
Listen, I try to not gas up, but properly just, you know, I like to give people their flowers when I can smell them. And, you know, you doing this show means a lot to me as well. So thank you for joining.
That's what's important, is giving people their flowers when they're still here. And, it can, you know, especially with what we're being confronted with right now. You know, I not for any other reason other than us, you know, being collectively misled. We really just didn't understand the power and the intensity behind, you know, what we're all going through right now, coronavirus. I don't know how many friends I have that have told me that people close to them have passed away. I'm just, it's shocking. And I hate waking up every single day to open my phone to see some more bad news. So I appreciate you, my friend, giving me my flowers while I'm still here.
Mel, it's incredible, man. Like, I feel like I already have like pretty rough anxiety sometimes, but I feel like every day I wake up, I'm like, oh my God, what's next? Oh my God, what's next? To the point where I can't even open the phone anymore.
Yeah, and you're in New York, which is looking like the epicenter of this thing, you know, in the entire country. I mean, you know, everybody's looked at California and seen how people are still outside and whatnot. And yeah, we're supposed to be social distancing and quarantining and that sort of thing. But there's a difference between California, because it's really, really big and spread out, and New York. We were on top of each other. You know what I mean? And it's a city of like, 19 million people. So it's not surprising that it's the epicenter. It's just stressful because I know so many people there.
Yeah, I mean,
I've forever family there.
Yeah, I've already woke up to a ton of people who have close friends and parents, teammates that have in college that have like passed away or have caught in it, and it's crazy, man. It's I don't know. I'm just. Honestly, though, doing this show has kept me, you know, sort of sane, just because I just need some sort of mental escape every day I wake up, because it's only going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah, that's the reality of the situation. Yeah. So the only thing that we can do is, you know, pray, meditate, stay in the house, and you know, just kind of stay safe, and really just, you know, like. I know that we're quarantined, so we're watching a lot of Netflix and chilling and eating and stuff like that. For me, that lasted about 2 days, where I was like snacking and drinking wine. And I was
God, yes.
I was like, yo, I'm either gonna be 40 pounds lighter or 40 pounds heavier when this ends, and I vote for the former. I'd rather be 40 pounds lighter. So I started to just chill out on the snacks. I started following one of my girlfriend's fitness YouTube channels so that I could get some exercise in the house, go for, you know, daily walks with Daisy. But everybody needs to keep, you know, stay cognizant of how to keep themselves healthy, just like from a supplemental standpoint. You know, get a lot of vitamin C, get zinc, folate, eat your fruits and veggies, drink a lot of hot tea, warm water with lemon. Like, these are things that you can do to increase the, strength of your immune system. And also, from what I'm starting to hear, heat and hot liquids, apparently coronavirus really doesn't like it. So
right.
That's something to kind of, try to stay one step ahead of this thing.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Mel. You studied forensic psychology in college, right?
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit about just like your assessment, just not so much physically, but I know like mentally, there's a lot to kind of digest when it comes to, not just the physical debilitations of what this virus can cause, but even if you're not even affected, just mentally, it can really affect you, right?
Having lived in New York for the better part of 16 years, I know what it's like to live in close quarters, and just by myself, I paid a nice $3,000 for a 700 square foot box
right.
in the financial district. Okay. So, that was one of the reasons why I left. I was like, this is not quality.
You're not getting the bang for your buck.
Every single day, and I'm paying $3,000. I can't do this shit no more. So I moved out to California to see grass and trees and some space and, own a car, because you can't have nothing nice in New York. But I digress. I am really, I'm very empathetic to people who are living with people that it was just a source of convenience, and now it is extraordinarily inconvenient. I am really concerned for women and children who are living with abusers, because, when we're forced into, containment, when we're forced to stay home, anxiety just kind of shoots through the roof, and we start to, let the worst characteristics that we have, they start to, come out and rear their ugly heads. So, this is a really scary time just because everybody's so focused on coronavirus, but there's so many other issues that people face on a daily basis just having to stay home, the worry about job loss, the worry about income, the worry about the economy. And just, I just read somewhere that this divorce attorney is fielding so many calls.
Oh my gosh.
Who are like, start the petition for divorce like now. And I'm like, so we all know who's going to be making bank after this whole thing, resolves itself. And that is, Trump, his administration, and divorce attorneys.
Oh, facts. This is one of those.
And Charmin.
Well,
Charmin and Purell.
First off, who got the word out that toilet paper was the thing that everybody needed? I mean, granted, yes, we understand if shit goes haywire and you can't go out in the streets and you run out of toilet paper, you need something to wipe your ass. But I mean, there's way more important things that, you don't need to clear the racks of toilet paper. You can get maybe 2 or 3 value packs and be all right.
I've been trying to figure out where it came from. Somebody told me Barack Obama sent out a tweet that said something about going to the store to get essentials like toilet paper, and that's where it came from. So I haven't been able to get to the bottom of where this, kind of comes from. But I do know that it is just fascinating to watch everybody act like sheep. This has been like the wildest social experiment I've ever had the pleasure or displeasure of witnessing, because from an anthropological standpoint, us as human beings, we really, really love to act like, we're top of the food chain and that we're so much more, intelligent and enlightened than the rest of the animal kingdom. Yeah, well, this virus and the media and the role that they played have really shown us we might have to knock ourselves down a couple of notches.
Oh, 1,000%. 1,000%.
Like the toilet paper, everyone's like, did you get your toilet paper? I was like, there's one ass in my house. It's mine. And guess what happens if I run out of toilet paper and there's no more? I can wash my ass. I can get into the shower and wash my ass. I find it hysterical. Did everybody forget these rules? We were taught them when we were 5.
Right.
Wash your hands, wash your ass. Brush your teeth. comb your hair.
The basics, the absolute basics. This is exactly how I knew we were fucked, though, because it was like, okay, there's a global pandemic happening across the world. Okay, there's got to be somebody on it, like working on some sort of vaccine, or kind of knew this was coming, right? And the only thing you can give me is wash your hands and clean your ass. I'm like,
and that was the thing that I think led people to be very confused and distrustful of what the media was saying, just in terms of how bad things were going to get, and that this was, that the medical community was very frightened, about, the ramifications of this. Because everyone was like, all you got to do is wash your hands. That's what gets rid of this stupid virus. So it just didn't seem to make any sense to us. Like, when we've been confronted with, viruses and whatnot in the past, we've heard about Ebola. I mean, you're melting from the inside out.
Right.
That's some fucked up shit. Washing your hands is not going to, spare you from that. We've been conditioned to look at things like this as being, immediate, and you see the effects, and they are horrific because we watch movies like Contagion and Outbreak and that sort of thing. So people are bleeding from every fucking body cavity and orifice and whatnot, and they start melting and screaming and burning and whatnot. But that's the thing about COVID-19, is its insidiousness, how it creeps in, how we're really unaware that a stranger has literally picked the lock and walked into our homes in the dead of night. And that's what's so insidious about it, and that's what's making it so, free to spread, because we still just totally don't get it. And don't get me started on the conspiracy theories about the fact that this is a biomedical.
Oh no, I'm all about the conspiracy theories around this whole shit, because there's too many things that, and I hate to be conspiracy brother on this podcast, but fuck it, we here now. There's way too many things that really don't sit right with me, as far as, I've always just thought about how the rich eat the poor and the poor eat the rich, and, just ways that, society and economically, when shit like this goes down and population control needs to kind of take over, who's really going to be the ones left over to fend for themselves? It's going to be us. Like, it's one of those things where, I'll see like funny shit, and, I always say stand-up comedians are, they always give you a scope into the future. And I forgot who said it, but they were talking about like, oh yeah, they're trying to colonize Mars. It's like, oh, you think you're going to Mars? Like, they're gonna leave you here, dude. Like,
I feel like it might have been Little Duval.
I think it was.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite comedians to follow, because
so funny.
He's hysterical, but his comedy is very, very, very observational, and he may not be. He's extremely wise. He may not be the most articulate person, but when he conveys a message, the masses really get it from the way he delivers it. Whether you have the mental capacity to understand the levels of what he's talking about, that's a whole other story. But he's a wise guy,
yeah.
And I mean that literally. He has a lot of wisdom. He's seen a lot, and he tries to tell people, but.
Bro, he's
half the time.
He's 1,000% one of those guys that I see from afar that I feel like just got life figured out. You know what I mean? Like, he may not be the smart. I mean, granted, however you think, whatever smart or intelligence looks like, that's, completely, your prerogative and up to you. But just a guy who just seems like, he's well equipped to handle most situations and is very digestible with the message that he puts out, because it's one of those things. I always say that it's the true genius is conveying your intelligence to everybody. Like, it's real easy to sound smart to smart guys, but to convey intelligence to the masses takes true genius.
Yeah, no, and with Little Duval, I understand. I totally get why he has accumulated all of this wisdom, and I think he would agree with me my assessment being that travel has allowed him to see the world, see how other people live, experience things that most Black people would say, oh, Black people don't do that shit, like scuba diving and stuff like that. He's very adventurous, and he is he literally, his motto in life should be like YOLO. You only live once, so I'm going to do every single thing that I can possibly do. And along the way, he's just accumulated all this knowledge by sitting down and talking to people from all different walks of life. And then he also sounds like he's been around the older people and the elderly for the lion's share of his life, because the elderly and older people are a wealth of information. It's just nobody really looks at them like that. They're quote unquote considered societal deadwood, and which is another reason that this coronavirus was really fucked up, because in the beginning people were saying, oh, well, it's only old people that need to worry about this disease. The rest of us are fine. It's like, well, that does not mean that they're expendable.
Right. They're still people.
You know what I'm saying? They're still people, and they add a lot of value. They have a lot of value. So, one human being isn't expendable. So, I think that little Duval, he's probably had a lot of older people over the course of his life. And he's just been an apt pupil. He's listened, and now he's the one dispensing that wisdom. Another comedian that I really love is Ryan Davis. He's also
he's hilarious.
He's also very observational comedy, very droll, very sarcastic, deadpan. I love that kind of delivery. That's my favorite. So his messages usually resonate with me as well.
Now, Mel, we talk a lot about a lot of things, but I've always thought your view, especially with your career and, everything that you've been throughout your entire career on social media, has always been very interesting to hear, because it's you're one of those people who, obviously has a huge social media following, and, you're one of the most recognizable, models, video vixens, wherever you want to call it, of all time. But it's almost you've almost, in a weird way, have kind of shied away from that sort of attention, but know when to use it, right? So, just talk to me a little bit about just, the effect of social media on today's society, and, somebody who has the entire, hits on so many check boxes of social media, as far as being attractive and being smart and having funny shit to post. How do you use it so you don't steer it in a way that you feel is detrimental to your followers?
Well, wow, that's loaded. That's good. That's good. Now, that's a really, really great question, and thank you for even observing that is the way that I move.
Right.
I mean, it goes all the way back to me doing music videos and not getting quote unquote caught up. I didn't give a fuck who the artist was that I was doing a music video for. I was there to do an honest day's work and get an honest day's pay. Mm-hmm. And so the people that I considered to be the ones that I needed to know, and I needed them to know me, were the ones that cut the fucking check. And the artist is not the one that cuts the check. Most of the time, he wasn't the one that even picked the girl. So, it was the director, and it was the producers, it was the director's agent, it was all of the people behind the scenes that I wanted to say, it was a pleasure working with Melyssa. She was no problem. She showed up. She did her job, and she wasn't gossiping or fucking the artist or whatever. We want to use her again, and that was really one of the main reasons why I got used a lot, was because of my work ethic. And so I carried that with me into just any type of work that I was doing, whether or not I was on a video set or I was on my own calendar sets or whatever. Work was work. I never got caught up in the optics of everything, and or I never really bought into the concept of reading my own press and getting a big head as a result of it. There was that was just fucking pointless, and I treat praise and criticism the exact same way. Too much is bad for you. So as it relates to social media, I'll just say this. I am so fucking glad it was not around when I was graduating. I'm just going to say that, because I have no idea what kind of, I don't know. I say that, that I don't know what kind of fuck shit I would have been up to, but I don't think that I would have been. I've always carried myself with Claire Huxtable in my mind, or Lena Horne, Angela Bassett, Viola Davis. Like, I decided a really long time ago who I wanted to be as a person, but more specifically as a woman. You know, I decided very early, like around 7 or 8, how I wanted to carry myself. And what those women all have in common is they are all extraordinarily poised and composed and dignified women. And they are highly regarded. And I said, that's what I want for myself. That to me was beautiful. That to me was magnanimous. Those are the things, those are the qualities I wanted to embody. And so people being caught up in what I look like, okay, fine. That's great. Thank you. I appreciate that. But my mission has always been to let, you know, Black and brown girls, or just women in general, that you can be anything that you want to be, but you should want to be everything. Not just beautiful, with a beautiful body. Because trust me, that shit's going to go away. And then what have you got? You should want to be intelligent. You should want to be compassionate. You should want to live as full of a life as possible. And you should want to have, you know, to have people form a line to stand at your wake and tell the world the effect that you had on their lives. You should want that for yourself. You know, especially, you know, me being a woman who never got married and never had children, I think a lot about legacy. Mm-hmm. And that's legacy to me, you know, and that's important to me. So when it comes to social media, you're never going to see me solving a disagreement that I have with somebody in a public forum. You're never, ever going to see that. I just don't think that is dignified. And that's just me personally. And with social media, it's a tool. It's the same way that I use magazine covers, you know, like, Melyssa, turn around, show your ass. I'm like, unless I got the cover and I'm peddling some products, you ain't seeing this motherfucking shit. No, you know, that's just how I've looked at things. Like, no, there's got to be like a high, you've got to really consider yourself top shelf kind of, you know, product if you're going to be pushing it. I mean, other than that, like, what are you giving people to look forward to? Where's the mystery? That's one thing that a lot of girls don't seem to really care much about. And I wish they did, was have a little bit of mystery to you. Make people wonder things about you. But when you're bending over every 5 minutes and showing us that your fucking asshole is bleached, well, what the fuck do we wonder about you? Nothing.
Mel, I've known you for so long, so like I'm just like, all these memories of our conversations are just like rushing back to me, and just knowing just, you know, how you've looked at social media and just media in general, and just how much you've understood it and understood your value. I never in a million years would think you would be doing podcasts and shows now, but here you are doing Hollywood Uncensored. I didn't. I mean, like, I just always thought, like, you know, I mean, I've always told people, like, you're one of the most brilliant people I know. Like, I could talk to you for hours, and, you know, but I just always thought that, you know, one, I didn't see the podcast space going this way, and two, I just always thought, you know, you would just, like you said, you carry yourself like on some Lena Horne, Claire Huxtable type shit. Like, you were just above so much shit. So when you got into the podcast world, I was just like, okay, if she's going to do it, it's not going to be on some, like, you know, ball, and, you know, nothing against Baller Alert, nothing against, like, you know, gossipy type of podcasts and shit like that. But, like, I know she's going to try and carry herself in a different way. What was the deciding factor for you to be like, you know what?
Hollywood Unlocked?
What's up?
To do Hollywood Unlocked?
Yes.
A few things, actually. One, my favorite medium has been radio for a very long time, because I don't got to get dressed up for it. You have no idea what the fuck I look like right now. You know, I actually happen to have, you know, my face on and stuff like that, because we were taping a remote episode, and we, you know, have to use our camera, the laptop cameras, et cetera, et cetera. But for the most part, I love radio because I got to be me in the truest form of myself. I got to flex my cerebral muscles. I got to show people that I had a personality. I got to show people that I have a sense of humor. I got to talk to fascinating people and dig deep into their lives. Radio has always been a lot of fun for me. Television hosting, acting, that shit is mad stressful. And there isn't enough jobs to go around. So the podcast space really gave everybody, myself included, an opportunity to take your destiny, into your own hands and start to control it, rather than going to casting calls and crossing your fingers and hoping that other people like you enough to give you a fucking job. That shit's annoying. So when it came to Hollywood Unlocked, I had no idea that it was going to become what it did. I really didn't. I was running away from New York. That's what was happening. I was, I needed my chapter in New York was done. Almost the better part of 16 years. I knew when to call a spade a spade. I wanted to go to the sunshine, California. I just wanted to live on this side of the country. And Jason proposed us doing this podcast together at the right moment. It was really good timing. And so then when we sat down, we had been friends for, almost 10 years at the time that we started the podcast. And when we sat down with each other, it didn't take more than 2 to 3 episodes for us to discover that our friendship translated into incredible chemistry. And that is you can't just pick a friend and say, hey, let's do a podcast together, because it's not always going to work. Things change when the relationship becomes professional as well as personal. And not everybody has, the chemistry, like that, the ability to assist each other, like Pippen and Jordan, when they were winning all these titles together and stuff like that. The assists, the rebounds, the layups, like all that stuff. It's just not necessarily there in every single relationship. Jason and I just happen to have it. And so I like Jason for being scorched earth. You know what I mean? Yeah. I love that shit.
Yeah, he's a wild boy, yo.
He's nuts. He's nuts. And it's so far removed from who I am that our personalities would flourish on the show. He is clearly who he is and makes no apologies for it and does what he does and says what he says and thinks what he thinks. And I have the opportunity to be the sole woman on the podcast, and I have the opportunity to represent for my female counterparts. And I get told quite often by a lot of them that they like the way that I represent them. I'm the myth buster. I'm the fact checker. I'll play devil's advocate, but I'm also extremely considerate and very compassionate of people, especially people that come up and they might be a little bit nervous. I'm the hand holder as well. I'm mama. It just, that happens where I just turn into mama.
Oh, you've been mama to me for the better part of 10 years. Like if there's always been like these tent poles in my life when I'm going through shit, and you always just pop back into it. And I'm just like, I'm so glad I could talk to this woman about some real shit, and she could not bullshit me and still be very like kind and caring and not just, hold my feet to the fire and make me feel terrible. So I'm glad that people are starting to see that side of you on this show, because I mean, you're the definition of don't judge a book by its cover, because we've all grew up with you in magazines and posters and shit like that. And now that, the world is seeing this side of your personality, is this a little bit more gratifying than the magazines and the video shits and all that?
I mean, listen, what's not to like about being recognized for your beauty when you're 20 years old? It's fucking fantastic. To be paid to look beautiful and be made to be even more beautiful by the team, their hair and makeup and wardrobe and whatnot. What's not to like about that? I mean, that was like fantastic for me. It was a wonderful time, and I'm so glad that I did that. There'd be no reason for me to do music videos today. Like I've outgrown that. It's I leave that for like I like to call y'all the youngins.
Well, you know what? It's like, when you watch football and they got like the franchise tag and you kind of set the market, you know what I mean? Like there's no market for it anymore, really. I mean, like you kind of set the market for everybody else to come behind you. And now, we're just kind of at a point where videos are so prevalent and budgets are so low that, it doesn't really kind of make sense for somebody like you to do something like this.
No, not at all. It makes absolutely no sense for me to do that. So, I mean, getting recognition for what you do at the time that you're doing it is a wonderful thing. You know what I'm saying? So I'm really blessed that, my video music career and modeling career was so prolific that it's so indelibly etched in people's brains that it's how they refer to me still. But I guess at this point in my life, it feels a little antiquated to continue to be referred to what you did professionally 15 years ago. And I think that if anybody thought about that, like from their own standpoint, like what was I doing 15 years ago? Okay, I was doing whatever. And is that me now? Most likely not, and I just wish the chapters could be closed a little bit more definitively. And that's what I hoped that podcasting would do. And so being on Hollywood Unlocked, even though I do love it and enjoy it, and Jason and I have a great friendship and it translates in our banter, I had to start my own because I needed to be more of the mom figure to a bunch of the younger generation coming up who might not have, acceptable kind of like mentors in this business. So I wanted to be that for a lot of women. I wanted to create an atmosphere that was really safe for people to come in and speak their truths. And I also wanted to create like a vehicle for myself to, design my own brand. And in that way, design my life, so I created the podcast I'm Here for the Food, but it really actually is a media company because the truth of the matter is that I wrote a screenplay called I'm Here for the Food. It's a feature-length romantic comedy. I wrote it with my very good friend Clint Coley, who's got a podcast called Advice from a Fuckboy.
I got to check that out. I'm sold off the title alone.
It's funny. It's really, really funny. So he and I spent over a year writing a screenplay. And so we have a screenplay called I'm Here for the Food. I'm about to start a brand new vertical off of I'm Here for the Food called the A La Carte series, which is only going to be found on YouTube. It's going to be just one-on-one interviews, very intimate in like a home setting versus the studio, which is the podcast. And the podcast is a little bit more, fun and loud. But this is a little bit more sedated, more Barbara Walters, more Diane Sawyer type thing. And then the next brand extension is to do I'm Here for the Food, Dessert is Served. And that is going to be a sex and relationship show.
Well, shoot. I mean, before we get into that, I want to just double back a little bit. In 2018, you went through a severe car accident. It was... I know we spoke a lot and, tried to, make sure that, you came back to good health and, thank God that, you're still here with us. What did that accident teach you about, you spoke a little bit about legacy earlier in the podcast, but, getting face to face with death forces you to kind of take an assessment of everything around you. What did that accident kind of teach you?
Fuck everything. Not fuck everything, but fuck, everything, exclamation point.
Punctuation is key with that.
It is key. Okay, let me go down the list of things that taught me. Number one, if not now, when? So when you're procrastinating, when you come up with a project or an idea that you want to see to fruition, but you never give it the time that it requires, and you just keep talking about it to people, but you actually don't do anything to put the wheels in motion. I ask you, if not now, when? ? Question mark. So I had to ask myself that about I'm here for the food, because this has been a project that I've been batting around the idea for years. At least 3 guests have come up on the show to talk about the fact, Melyssa, I am so glad to actually see you doing this because you've been talking about this for years. Like Laz mentioned it, Takara mentioned it. I feel like Roxy might have mentioned it, but they're all very much aware that this has been something that I've been talking about for years, but I never pulled the trigger. And when it came to the accident, I was like, if not now, when? When I recover, I'm going to do this finally. And so I did. So that was one of the things that I took with me. That was a lesson that I learned from the car accident. Another one was I started to realize my attachment to, stuff. And we all have it. We all have an attachment to stuff. And I think the social media, this is one of the downsides to social media that makes us, really covet what our neighbor has, but we have to really understand that everybody's Facebook or, Instagram page is their life curated in bite-sized form. You know what I'm saying? So the reality is we have all been forced down to the same level with this COVID-19 thing, because nobody can be out there stunting right now. You can't fucking go nowhere. So how are you going to stunt? If you have been stunting on the fucking gram, well, you ain't got shit to do right now. So who are you without all that stunting? Who are you? And so who are you without your stuff? Because you can't fucking take it with you. Like, I lost everything from the standpoint of I lost my identity. When you go through a trauma like that, if you go through a trauma like rape, if you go through a trauma like war veterans, if you go through a trauma like a horrible car accident like I did and a traumatic brain injury, there's a line that is drawn in the sand, and on one side is the before you, the you who you were before this traumatic incident happened in your life, and then there's the you after, and slowly but surely that before you starts to fade away to where you don't even know who that fucking person is anymore. And now what you have to do is you got to figure out who are you to you. And that was the hardest thing that I had to do when it came to my recovery. My brain is broken. My fucking heart is broken because my nigga fucking left me. When that shit
Whoa, he left you?
He never showed up to the hospital. He never showed up in my life.
Oh, jeez.
When my accident happened. Because, it just made me realize, that I was just his perfect little doll. And then when his doll was broken, he had no interest in it. So he just threw it back in the fucking toy box. And, well, fuck my life. Because, I loved him. And so I had to deal with broken head, broken heart all at the same time while I'm rediscovering who I am. Who I am to me. What does Melyssa Ford even mean? So I was on a journey towards a whole different level of self-discovery, and it was very, 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 very painful, and it was very lonely. But I've come out the other side. I am extraordinarily pleased with all of the work that I did. I discovered a level of strength I did not believe that I would have ever had. And I've come out of this really with a very strong concept of self-love. I've taken to giving myself a break for a lot. I used to really torture myself. And I used to really absorb and internalize the negative things that people would say. People who don't know me from a can of paint, but just would, I don't know, just pay attention to fucking headlines or whatever the case is.
Right.
Or my, past career, and just make, I don't know, just they just come to a conclusion about me that was so false. But I would internalize all of that stuff, and it just started to wear away at my soul. And I just started to give myself a break on internalizing people's negativity, and also internalizing, how poorly I would think about myself. And so now here I am, building this brand of, something that I can be really, really proud of, something that people look forward to hearing, and they give their attention to it, and the thanks that they send me, the gratitude that they have. I'm so happy and I'm overwhelmed and I feel useful, you know, and that's a really good feeling.
That's a great feeling, man. You talked about giving yourself a break and, you know, not caring about what people say in headlines or whatever. And I rarely see you in a lot of headlines unless, you know, it was, you know, something like that. But recently I did about...
You're good at this, Cass.
Hey,
You're
man.
so good at the segue.
I've been doing this for a long time, Mel. I've never got you in this position. That's why. So you're just figured it out.
This is the first time you've ever interviewed me. That's why I'm just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, see, I can see some things. So you were in the headlines recently, and for you know, it came out, or I guess you talked about you and I think Takara dating Drake at the same time. And a lot of people got their yucks off on that. And, you know, a lot of people had things to say.
I didn't see shit.
Yeah. How did you feel when that thing kind of like took off the way it did? And, you know, just as far as like being a woman in the industry where it's never really sort of fair when you're in that situation, but I would just like to hear your thoughts on like how, you know, you kind of handled that and navigated yourself through that, especially given everything you've already been through and just kind of giving yourself a little bit more of a break on things.
I really did not, when I saw that, you know, kind of made headlines everywhere, like Shade Room and everybody covered it. You think I went into the comments section? Ripping. I like myself too much to go into the comments section to read what stupid motherfuckers have to say about that, because, you know, no one's gonna shit on the man, which is crazy to me, but, you know, whatever. And no one in this particular situation, no one should shit on Drake. At the time that me and Takara were dating him at the same time, you got to remember, this was 2009. This is over 10 years ago.
Wow.
You know, so what's Drake now? 20 or 34th? I don't know what the fuck he is. But he was like 24, 25 at the time. I knew how young he was, you know, but we clicked. We're both from Toronto. We're both half black, half white. Like, we're both, like, there were so many both Scorpios. Like, there's so many similarities there that we really just got along, you know, and we liked each other. But he was fucking rich and famous, you know. Did I believe that I was the only chick? No. Was he the only guy in my life at the time? No. You know, that's not the point. The point is that Takara is my very good friend. People knew we were good friends, and I was just like, okay, little motherfucker, I know you think that your shit doesn't stink right now, and it may just smell like roses. I don't know. But what you're not going to do is you're not going to date my girlfriend and me at the same time. You're going to have to make a choice. You know, oh, how about this? I'll make it for you. I'm bowing out, you know. And unbeknownst to me, Takara decided to bow out, so we basically chose each other. That was the purpose of the story. The purpose of the story was to show women, because this was set on a platform that has a demographic of about 73% women, that you don't let the guy be what ruins your friendship. You know what I mean? Because I've seen it happen way too many times over the course of my life where friendships fall out because of a guy and a lack of honesty and just basically like a lack of honesty. And so the girls end up hating each other and the guy ends up winning. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, I'm not doing that with Takara. So that was the point of telling the story. But I will say this. I did see one comment because it ended up on my page. You know, people will at you so you can see the fuck shit that they have to say to you.
Okay.
And some chick, I say chick because I'm just like, you know, women sometimes are the biggest purveyors of fucking misogyny. It really pisses me off. But some woman had the audacity to say something to the effect of, she added me, Drake, and the game. And she basically was saying something about the fact that at Melyssa Ford dated at Champagne Poppy. I guess Los Angeles Confidential song was right about her getting around and wouldn't get far. And I'm thinking, okay, number one, bitch, 20 years later, y'all motherfuckers still know my name. Try and find somebody from 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and 20 years ago that you're still talking about. I'll wait. That's number one. And number two, is the game kind of going through a case right now where he owes somebody $7 million for sexual assault.
Oof.
So I'm just like, okay, so a guy who was dating half the world, meaning Drake, and decided to date two friends at the same time, you're going to hold him in a higher regard. And the guy with the sexual assault case, or alleged sexual assault, whatever the fucking circumstances are, all of them you're holding in a higher regard and assuming that I'm a whore because of that, because of me dating one. I can't. I just fucking can't with people. Forget the fact that I didn't even bother telling people that dating does not equal fucking to me, and I never had sex with Drake. Because nobody would care and no one would believe me anyways.
Right.
They'd be like, why are you gonna lie for? I don't have to. You all assume that that's what happened. But I am very, how should I say, I'm very old school and very old fashioned where I like to be courted. And until I feel like I can trust you, I'm not sleeping with you. And I had every reason to feel like I needed a little bit more evidence as to whether or not I could trust, Mr. No Guidance.
Great song, by the way.
I love him. And I love his music. Yeah, absolutely. But I needed more proof that I could allow myself to be vulnerable in that way. And I didn't get it before the revelation was that he was dating my friend. I was like, dodged a bullet there, but nobody's going to believe me and I don't really care. But that's the reality of the situation. And that's the things that people have to say. They see this headline and it's just salacious to them. And it's really not. It's really not as salacious as everybody thought that it was. It was funny. And also, it was a story I sat on for 10 years. But apparently I'm clout chasing because I mentioned it now. No, I'm not doing that either because I don't need to. It just was a story that was relevant at the time to emphasize the nature of Takara, who was my guest on my podcast, to show the level of depth that our friendship has, because he was not the only guy that we discovered we were dating at the same time. We found out about a whole other guy and same thing happened. We both were like,
gosh, I hate to be the guy to pry in and be gossipy, but would you mind naming
he wasn't a name.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, he wasn't a name.
Well, shoot, lucky dude.
Otherwise I'd say it.
All right. So yeah, I mean, let's circle back to, I'm Here for the Dessert. It's a sex podcast or, sex and relationship podcast that you're going to, launch in conjunction with I'm Here for the Food. And, for as much as, there's so many layers to you and so much depth to your character. At the end of the day, a lot of people still see you as a sex symbol, and to be a sex symbol 20 years later, that's a hell of an accomplishment. So,
you know what? Shit could be worse.
Shit could be way fucking worse. I've seen a lot of people that were in videos with you back then, and I see how they look now. So let's keep it there. But
that part. I mean, it's really, I think I should start giving tips on how to age gracefully.
Well, shit, we've seen you and Elise Neal doing Instagram workouts, and if you're talking about Black Don't Crack and aging gracefully, I mean, Jesus, that is.
I know Elise is. We did an interview prior to that for the series that I'm going to drop in the beginning of next month, which is called "I'm Here for the Food," the a la carte series. So we did a one-on-one interview, and Elise and I have been friends for a long time. We actually did a short film together. She's so funny. She's so talented. She's got such an enormous heart. And she's #goals. She's goals for me because she's about 9 years older than me. And I'm just looking at her and looking at that body. I'm like, please, God, 8-pound baby, Jesus, please. Let me stay the course so that I look like her. And then, a little bit further ahead is Angela Bassett. Goals again. Halle Berry. These are goals. Lisa Ray. Goals. There's so many women that, Cynthia Bailey. Goals. There's so many beautiful women, mature women that are my goals. But I know that for girls just a little bit younger than me or a lot younger than me, I'm their goals, and I'm happy to be that, you know. So I will try to keep this waistline in check while I'm in quarantine, people. For you.
Yeah, don't eat up all the quarantine snacks, and we appreciate you keeping it right and keeping it tight for 20 years going. So yeah, man, I would just love to hear just, you know, what I'm Here for the Dessert is going to be focused on, because I feel like, you know, for as much as you've been a sex symbol this entire time of your career, you haven't really like super dove into like your sex life like that, or your relationship life like that. So
you're right. That is part of the mystery. I've always wanted people to be like, well, I wonder, and you know, like I always thought that it would be too easy, you know, like, oh wow, the sex symbol talking about sex. Wow, news at fucking 11, you know. So I never really, you know, I never really thought to do that. I mean, when I think about journalism and when I think about television journalism, I think about Oprah. And just a little aside, I'm very sad to see what
happened? Did you miss something?
Wait. Oh shit. Hold on one second here. Hold on.
Okay, let me pause this.
Pause. Just 1 second.
Go ahead. Sorry.
When it comes to television journalism, I have my idols, and you know, one thing that's been really sad to see is to watch just how negatively, you know, the Black folks seem to regard Oprah, you know, considering the contribution, the length, like the decades of contribution that she's made to the culture. It's just, it's disconcerting to see how people just arbitrarily just toss her to the side now, you know. And that is not to take up for her, because I think that people have, you know, like they have genuine, you know, concerns when it comes to, you know, the documentaries that she's chosen to be a part of. But that's just an aside. When I think about, you know, who my idols are in a professional sense when it comes to television journalism, I think about her. I think about Anderson Cooper. I think about Christian Amanpour, who was the war correspondent for CNN. I think about Bill Curtis, you know, who was one of the faces of A&E, their investigative journalism. You know, these are I think about Anthony Bourdain. These are the people that I think about emulating. So when it comes to what I wanted to do with, you know, with my own podcast, is I wanted to get people comfortable to looking at me as the counterparts of the giants that I just named. I think about them all the time whenever I'm doing the work. And it would be so difficult for people, I think, to look at me and listen to salacious things coming out of my mouth, talking about sucking dick and fucking and all kinds of stuff, that I would always just be a one-note chick at that point. Like, what else is there about you, you know, that's substantial in a professional capacity? And so that's why I took the road less traveled and went in this direction. So with the I'm Here for the Food, Dessert is Served, I think now I've done enough that I can stick my toe into that arena, but not have it not be the focus. So it's only going to be available on a subscription-based service. So you really got to want to hear me talking about sucking dick if you want to listen to this particular show, because it's only going to be on a subscription-based platform. It's going to be on Patreon, and I'm only going to do 2 to 3 of them a month. So it's just the whole, just maintain control of the supply, and you'll have an enormous demand for it. So that's the template that I'm following with that. But other than that, you can find I'm Here for the Food, the podcast, on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and iHeart.
All right, Mel, one last question, and I'm going to put you on blast because this is a conversation we had years ago. And I want to see if you're still going to hold yourself to this. You said you said you've never posed nude. Nobody in the world has ever seen you like naked, and in the world where everybody can see yourself naked. And you said if you get to age 50 or something like that, and you still look good, you said you would do it. Is this still the plan?
Hold that thought. Let me get this fucking phone.
Hold on. Gosh, the phone. Hold on.
Ask me the question, then I gotta do this iHeart shit.
Yeah, that's the last one. Yeah, so you told me way back when, you was like, listen, if I get to 50 years old and I still look pretty good, then maybe I would pose nude for something like classy or some shit like that. Is this still the plan in your life?
Did I say that shit?
You told me, yes, you did say this.
Here's the problem, is that Playboy doesn't do nudes anymore.
This is true. This is very true. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm off the hook. However,
you beat them out. You outlasted them. I feel like that should be a winner in itself.
Actually, you know what I will do? When I am 50, I'll probably just do a nude shoot just to, do some black and white nudes. And whichever bomb-ass one is the one that I choose to blow up and frame and put in my house, well, I'll make sure that Well, where am I putting this, Cass? Am I going to put this on the gram?
I mean, shit, I don't know. It's up to you, bro. Like, I don't... it's your prerogative.
Maybe I'll just invite the cameras into the, to the behind the scenes of that shoot.
You know where you put it?
You better believe I'll put that on the subscription.
I was about to say, you put on the subscription playlist. And that's how you get your subscribers up. Yep. Mel, you're one of the most genuine people I've ever met in my life. You are fantastic. And I'm so happy, especially with everything that you've been through with the accident and seeing you bounce back and the way you've bounced back. You're killing shit out here. I'm so proud of you. Love you so much. And thank you for doing this podcast. It was a blast.
Of course. And I am so proud. I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy for you. I've been Insta-stalking you, so I feel like I know what's going on in your life. And anytime you need a dog sitter for that little puppy you've got,
yes,
I am your girl. Okay?
My little girl Pootie Tang, man. She's a lover, so you'll fall in love with her immediately.
Oh, she's so cute. I can't stand it. I wanted to kiss her through the phone.
Mel, you're the best. Thank you so much. I know you got to head to iHeart, but we'll catch up soon. Okay. For
sure, my love. Thank you so much.
Take care. And that's a wrap on the show. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Kazim. That's Kazeem. And you can follow the page on Twitter, Say Less with Kaz. That's SAYLESSWITHKAZ. Thank you so much. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, SoundCloud, all those places. Appreciate y'all listening. Leave a nice review, maybe a comment if it's nice enough. And I'll catch you next week or next day, or however long we're doing this shit. But say less.